Hey everyone, it's Justin. Welcome to another episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. We're glad to have you here. We're well over 300 plus episodes. It's because of your support and love and wanting to watch and listen and be a part of this movement to help others with, again, my big goal of wanting to help 3 billion people some way, somehow over the course of my lifetime and beyond. It's a huge goal, as we know, and we can't do it alone. And so as we do with each episode, bring you a guest or a solo episode where we share current events, how mental health related, how different areas of trauma and recovery, uh, how all those are kind of intertwined, as well as we are believers in believing that, and just speaking for me at this point, we're all here for a reason. We've made it through whatever we've made it through for a reason, and that makes us who we are. And that's really why I'm even here on the show to do this. So I want to introduce our guest. She has only been following for a little bit of time. She is an incredibly powerful speaker, sharing her story, which she'll be doing, as well as her walk with God and her faith, and that is what has been a help for her. And we know you're gonna enjoy it, so I'm gonna be quiet, and I'm gonna introduce Karla Solomon to the show. Thank you so much, Karla.
No, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it and appreciate the mission and the vision that you have and everything that you're doing. So thank you for that because even your brand name, Voices for Voices, it speaks to me personally because I too have been silenced in so many ways about the experiences that I've walked through. So as a kid, I was taken from my grandparent or from my mom by my grandparents, and my grandparents had suspected a lot of neglect and abuse, and they took me from her and lived with them for a couple of years. Eventually my aunt got legal guardianship of me, and I lived with her from the time that I was 4 or 5 until I was about 11. um, I'd always ask my aunt questions about my mom because I didn't really have a relationship with her. She really kept me guarded from my mother because of her drug use and abuse and um, just the situations that my mom was in. But I always felt like a burden to my aunt because she would always make these comments about, I wouldn't have to pay for all of this for you, like school clothes and things like that, if your mom would just get her stuff together. And it always left me feeling as if I was not just a burden to her, but why would my mom not get to a place of being okay enough to take care of me? So at about 11 years old, I ended up stealing a pack of cigarettes for my aunt, and I had them hiding in my bedroom. I did not even know that she found them. I was trying to impress the girl down the street. She was like 16, and I was just trying to be like the cool 11-year-old, and trying to impress her and make a friendship or whatever. And my aunt one night made me pack a backpack full of clothes, one pair of shoes, and she took me to my mom's and dropped me off at the doorstep like a dog and knocked on the door and basically told me, "You're going to learn what it feels like to live poorly." I was thrust into an environment that was full of violence and drug use, abuse, and drinking, and many other things. And within a few days of me living with my mother, me thinking that I was about to have this opportunity to meet my mom and, have that relationship with her that I had longed for so long, um, I was faced with a reality of, what comments my aunt had said in the past was extremely true. So one night I heard a lot of yelling and screaming coming from their bedroom door. They used to stay kind of isolated in their bedroom at night. And I snuck and I watched from the crack underneath the door, and what I seen terrified me. I had never seen anything like it. And I ran away for the first time that night. And very soon after I ran away, I was didn't know where I was going. I didn't have a plan or anything like that. I was basically walking the streets, and an older lady that lives down the street from us, or lived down the street from us, she approached me and kind of started consoling me and, telling me that, I deserve so much better, this, that, and the other. And she built this relationship with me to the point that I called her mom number two. She would wait for me at the bus stop. She would make me sandwiches after school. She was filling the role of what wanted my mom to be able to do. And my mom didn't have the capacity or the focus to do those types of things. So over time, she slowly introduced me to men and drugs. And she took me to a party when I was 12 years old. And I remember doing drugs, and I woke up in a bed with a strange man. And I knew, something had happened. And when I came out, the party was still going. She wrapped her arms around me and told me that she was proud of me, and that now that was out of the way, that the real work can begin. And I didn't really know what that meant or anything like that, but I trusted her. So very shortly after that, she encouraged me to run away from home. And up before that, she, encouraged me to stay at home. And my mom trusted her enough to where I would be able to go and spend the night at her house and things like that, because I was just one less kid to worry about. Um, so eventually, she ended up selling me to drug dealers or men that she knew on the streets in exchange for drugs. And that is definitely child trafficking. Um, it kind of got really bad out there. 12 years old, she eventually got me addicted to the same drugs that she was doing, which is the same drugs that I was running away from at home, crack cocaine. And I trusted her, with every ounce of my being. I trusted her. I thought she truly loved me, and I thought that this was just how life was. And I eventually got away from her at about 12, 13 years old. This period didn't last, probably a little over a year. And I got away from her because I had an encounter with law enforcement. I was always listed as a runaway, even though my mom was very much in addiction and drinking and everything else. Every time I ran away, she would call and report me missing. So I had an encounter with law enforcement, and they shared with me something that really kind of changed the trajectory of me being around this woman. So I left being around her to basically living on the streets. I would always carry a backpack full of dirty clothes. Um, I would have to trade the use of my body for basic needs, food, shelter, anything that I needed. And I eventually found out at 14 years old that I was pregnant. And whenever I found that out, I kind of made a vow to myself that I was never going to let my kids or my son grow up with the same kind of environment. So I did not have anywhere to go, and I was sleeping on the streets or couch surfing. And I ended up telling a man that I knew that he was the one that got me pregnant. And I only told him that because I knew he had a house, I knew he had a car. So I thought that in my head, at a 14-year-old pregnant girl, that I would have a safe place to go, a safe place to live. That was far from the truth. Excuse me. I was thrust into an environment where I was forced to do things that I really didn't want to do. Sorry, I got a little choked up there.
Oh, you're okay. Take your
Um,
time.
so I was forced by this man. Oh my goodness, you'll have to cut this part out.
No, you're
It's
okay.
probably not good that I'm drinking a Red Bull. Um, but I was forced into an environment where I was forced to cook and clean and perform sex acts for this man multiple times a day. And if I refused, I was threatened to be kicked out, either pregnant or when my son was born. So I endured this treatment for about 5 years, and I left one day because I found out through my son that this man had been touching my son inappropriately. And I, like I said, I made that vow to never allow my kids to go through what I've been through. So I started packing clothes. And luckily, I had a good friend of mine that lived down the street who was willing to take in me and my son. So we moved in with my friend Amanda, and she basically accepted us into our home. We had our own space. She was single and had a son a little younger than mine. So we lived there, and during this messy leaving this other guy, I actually met my husband, who I'm still married to now. Um, we didn't live the best life. We were selling drugs and doing anything to make money together. And whenever we heard that there was law enforcement looking for us with very descriptive things of who we are, we decided to leave Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and go to Texas around my mom because my mom is a big family man. And he always told me, that's your only mom. That's the only mom you're ever going to have. Like, don't you think at this point that it's, time for y'all to reconcile your differences? And he didn't know a lot of the trauma that I had went through at that point. So he just thought that I was just kind of avoiding my mom, and it definitely wasn't the case. But he convinced me, and we moved to a town that was very close to her so that we could have that relationship. And I carried a lot of trauma, a lot of unresolved trauma from my childhood. I had never gotten any help for that, counseling or any of the above. So I just lived it with it for so long. I thought it was me. I thought that's just how I was. And because of that, it led to a lot of other things, continued drug use and um, even, I mean, I've been to prison once at that point. So, um, I I tried to reconcile with my mom, but there was still a lot of hurt under the surface. And, she was trying so desperately to make that relationship with me, but it wasn't exactly, I still held a lot of grudges and a lot of grief and
Mhm.
a lot of, hurt from her. So it on her side, it seemed genuine, but for me, I was very cautious and avoiding of her. And, my husband to this day still believes that forgiveness is that key that unlocks the doors. It's not for them and excuses their behavior, but it helps us, as people that have been hurt by other people, set us free from holding on to those types of things. um so I fast forward to 29 years old, we've been together since I was like 19. So yeah, this September will be 20 years that we've been together.
Oh,
Um, Fast forward to 29 years old, we had two more kids that were born. And so I had a teenager, a toddler, and an infant in the house, and I was sober. We both were. And I developed a opioid addiction through an emergency surgery that I had to have to get my appendix out.
mhm.
And because of that, it allowed a lot of the trauma that I had suppressed for so long to surface. And I did the one thing that I knew how to do very well, and that was run. I abandoned my kids, I abandoned my husband, and I thought the grass was going to be greener on the other side. And I moved into an apartment by myself, and I just, kind of got into some really bad situations. Um, I started doing like rap music videos and things that are just way out of, my ordinary, anyways. And that led to me being introduced to a person that by somebody else that I trusted. And he basically told me, Karla, I know somebody that can help you out of that situation. And because of that, I was introduced to my second trafficker. At first, he portrayed himself to be the Prince Charming. He doted on me and bought me a lot of things I couldn't afford otherwise. And he really built that relationship with me to the point that he knew all of my vulnerabilities, all of my weaknesses, all of my dark secrets that I had never shared with anybody. And it got to the point where he one night decided to introduce me into his world of how he made the money that he had, because that was something I never asked. He was spending all this money on me. He didn't work, and I knew he didn't work a normal job anyways. And I knew that something was going to be bad on the other side, and it definitely was.
Wow. It's just a harrowing story of just, like you said, event after event, put your trust in people, and it it sometimes is good, sometimes it's not. But there was a lot of times where, um, I guess what I'm trying to get to is the grooming is where, the preparing of, like you
Yes.
mentioned, the gifts and uh, being that, mother figure or father figure, and and then it gets to the point where, like you said, you end up at a party at 12 years old and in the bed with somebody you don't know, and all the way up until, again, until you met your second trafficker. And I think these are all such important points for our viewers and listeners. First off is to believe that trafficking is real, that it's not something that happens solely in, a third world country or uh, anything like that. Like, it happens in the United States of America. And I think for a lot of people, it's hard to believe that. It's saying, oh, I'm immune to that kind of like crime of, well, if I live in this certain area, this is going to make me immune. Well, that's not the case. And
Not at all.
it's important when you literally share your life story up until basically now. And it was, like you said, the one thing you knew how to do was run. And that was just something that was innately in your mind of just I don't know, second sense or third sense or whatever, where like, oh, I gotta find something or another person that hopefully wants to help me and truly wants to help me, that doesn't want anything in return, that it's purely on, we want to help you however we can. It might be something minor, very small, or it might be something big. But and I think that's why it's hard to find people nowadays that are truly like that, because everybody, not everybody, I use that term, but a lot of people, they're in it for the wrong reason. They see the money and they kind of make them so in their mind immune to what's actually happening, of the trafficking and the different things that are happening. It's like, oh well, I'm this person has all this money. Like, oh, how do you get it? And it's just
For me, it was a little bit
oh,
different. It wasn't the money, it wasn't it was the attention and the love that I was so desperately seeking.
Okay. No, I didn't mean the money for you. I meant for like the
Yeah,
trafficker. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. Uh, and and so you've been very vocal on social media, sharing that trafficking is real, that it did happen to you, and whether people believe it or not, it's something that happened to you. It's your story, it's your recollection, and I think that's something that I'm coming across where people are like, "Oh, that didn't happen," or if it happened, then uh, not you, but the person with traffic, another person with traffic, like they're a bad person, and so if you interact with them, then you're a I'm a bad person because I'm interacting with somebody who like you didn't ask to be trafficked. Others didn't ask to be trafficked. It's not like these conscious decisions like, oh yeah, this sounds like a good idea. And
It's
it's
all a
hard.
part of
Go
it's
ahead.
all a part of the grooming process, and a successful grooming process will actually result in a victim actually being a willing participant because
Mm,
they believe that this process, that this person has loved you and cared for you, and they build that trust to the dependent to and dependency to a degree that when they subtly promote the idea of selling sex for money is sometimes necessary or required or necessary in many different ways. So a successful grooming process results in a victim participating in their own exploitation and sale and thinking in their head that they've made that choice to do so willingly and independently.
you got it. We're getting close to the end of this episode. From how can people learn more about you, the work that you do, about keeping up to date with you, kind of like a branding plug.
Right. So I have my own website. It's karlasolomon.com. There's a lot about my story. I have done a soft white underbelly interview that reached over 2 million views. I've got a lot of the work that I do now on listed on there. And there's also a way to donate
Mhm.
to other survivors because I do help survivors who are in emergency and crisis situations. All the money that is donated to that page is solely for that alone. Like right now, I even have a survivor. I'm depleted in funds as far as as far as my website,
Mhm.
and I can't even I'm having to send her my own money just to wash clothes because I know what it feels like to be on the streets with a backpack full of dirty clothes and not have any help except for trading the use of my body. So
Wow.
karlasolomon.com,
And that's with a K for
and
those
that's
out
with a
there that
K.
yeah.
Yes.
Um, yeah, please check out carlasolomon.com. Please she has a great following on many social media platforms. Obviously TikTok being kind of the faster one where you're able to get things out in a quicker manner um, and and I just wanted to thank you for being on this episode and coming back and being just vulnerable, talking about the past because it's not easy. It's not just like reading a piece of paper, reading a script. Like these are real things that happen, and these are emotions and all the things that come with it to process that. And and I think what I also want to share is if an individual shares that a they have been human trafficked or they're exhibiting signs that to definitely report it. There's a
Yes.
national human trafficking hotline uh,
Yes.
to get that case number, the law enforcement in the area, and don't stop until keep calling and sharing. And if you're not a person that wants to be on a show, that's okay. You don't have to be. You can just have, messaging, like kind of like behind the scenes, like where, hey, we can have conversations like, oh, like how did you get through this? And how do I do that? And some of those things take a little bit, like a minute amount of time, but like you said, it could mean the world to that person, of giving them the
Right.
confidence to step forward, to feel empowered that they can reach out, they can talk about it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Carla, for joining us. I invite our viewers or listeners to check out the following episode, which will be part two of our discussion. We're going to get into the advocate work a little bit more, into the faith and God and the religion, and how that has been a help to Carla. And we really just want to say thank you. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. So, thank you.